Imagine this. You're at one of the most famous fashion shows in the world. The lights are bright, the crowd is excited, and all eyes are on you. You're wearing a beautifully crafted, one-of-a-kind piece from a luxury fashion house, Balenciaga. Known for its elegance, sophistication, and timeless style, the air is filled with the sound of clapping as you walk down the runway, and you can feel the weight of history on your shoulders. Balenciaga, once a name that represented luxury and the height of fashion, has changed drastically over the years. Today, it's tangled in controversy, known for shocking, often disturbing designs and campaigns that have raised more questions than answers. How did a brand that was once a symbol of class and beauty fall so far from grace? How did Balenciaga go from being one of the world's most respected luxury fashion houses to a name that leaves people questioning its values? Let's explore the story of how Balenciaga lost its way. The birth of Balenciaga, a legacy of elegance. The story of Balenciaga begins long before the scandalous campaigns and controversial designs. It starts in 1917 when Cristobal Balenciaga, a Spanish designer, opened his first fashion house in Paris. Cristobal was a revolutionary in the world of fashion. His designs were different from anything people had seen before. While many other designers focused on creating designs that followed the latest trends, Balenciaga focused on creating timeless, beautifully crafted pieces that emphasized structure, shape, and grace. Balenciaga's creations were made for the elite. Hollywood stars, royalty, and aristocrats were some of his biggest clients. His work became synonymous with the best of high fashion. He didn't follow trends, he set them. Balenciaga was a master of couture, designing everything from elegant evening gowns to chic daywear. His designs changed the way the world thought about fashion. In fact, Christian Dior once said, "Balenciaga is the only couturier in the world." But in 1968, after years of redefining the fashion world, Cristobal closed the doors of his fashion house. His retirement marked the end of an era, and for many, it felt like fashion had lost its greatest innovator. After his departure, Balenciaga's presence in the world of fashion dimmed. A new beginning, Demna Gvasalia, takes over. Fast forward to 2015. Balenciaga had been quiet for years, but it was about to be revived in a very unexpected way. Enter Demna Gvasalia, a designer from Georgia who had made a name for himself with the streetwear brand Vetements. When Gvasalia was appointed creative director of Balenciaga, no one could predict the direction he would take the brand. Gvasalia brought a completely different approach to Balenciaga, one that was bold, disruptive, and heavily influenced by street culture. Instead of delicate, refined gowns, he introduced oversized coats, chunky sneakers, and designs that mixed high fashion with streetwear. His vision was revolutionary, but it wasn't everyone's cup of tea. The traditional luxury fashion world was stunned by his audacity, but the younger generation, they loved it. Under Gvasalia's direction, Balenciaga became one of the most talked about brands in fashion. His designs weren't just clothing, they were statements. He challenged the idea of what luxury fashion could be. Balenciaga was no longer just about beauty and elegance. It became about pushing boundaries and redefining what was cool. But as the brand's popularity grew, so did its willingness to experiment. Gvasalia didn't just want to disrupt the fashion world, he wanted to break it apart and put it back together in a new way. This approach, while successful in the short term, would eventually lead to trouble. The problem with shock value, the fine line between art and exploitation. One of the reasons Balenciaga gained so much attention was Gvasalia's ability to shock. His collections became more extreme, with designs that played with odd shapes, unusual materials, and provocative themes. But the more he pushed the envelope, the more the brand started to feel like it was doing so for shock value rather than genuine artistic expression. Balenciaga's design started to feel less like fashion and more like a statement meant to make people uncomfortable. For example, in 2021, Balenciaga unveiled a collection of shoes that looked like they had been run over by a car. The shoes were intentionally scuffed, dirty, and damaged, but they were sold at a luxury price. People were divided. Some praised the brand for pushing boundaries, while others saw it as an example of bad taste and a lack of authenticity. In 2022, Balenciaga took things even further with a campaign that sparked outrage across the globe. The brand released images of young children holding teddy bears dressed in BDSM-inspired outfits. The images were jarring, unsettling, and downright disturbing. It wasn't just the controversial fashion choices that shocked people, it was the message these images seemed to send. People questioned whether the brand had crossed the line into exploitation. Was it art? Or was it something darker? The internet quickly exploded with backlash. Social media platforms were flooded with outrage, and the campaign was pulled within days. But the damage was done. Balenciaga had crossed a line that many felt shouldn't have been crossed, and in doing so, it lost the trust of many loyal customers. The fallout. Balenciaga's struggle to regain trust. In the wake of the 2022 scandal, Balenciaga issued a public apology and promised to take responsibility for the campaign's failure. However, apologies can only go so far. The damage to the brand's reputation was significant. Celebrities who had once proudly worn Balenciaga now distanced themselves from the brand. Luxury fashion stores removed the brand's products from their shelves, and customers were left questioning whether they could ever trust Balenciaga again. The brand's once sterling reputation was tarnished. Balenciaga had gone from being a symbol of sophistication and craftsmanship to a brand known for controversy. Gvasalia, despite being one of the most innovative designers in the industry, found himself at the center of a storm. But Balenciaga wasn't the only brand facing this kind of criticism. Fashion, in general, was becoming more and more focused on provocation. In the world of luxury fashion, the desire to stand out and make a statement was pushing many designers to test the limits of good taste. Balenciaga, however, seemed to go further than most, taking risks that ultimately backfired. A new era for Balenciaga. Can it recover? After the scandal, many wondered if Balenciaga could ever recover. The brand had once been a beacon of high fashion, admired by millions. But now, it faced an uncertain future. Could it rebuild its reputation and return to the elegant, timeless designs that made it famous in the first place? Or was the damage too severe? Balenciaga has tried to make a comeback, moving forward with new collections that lean more into their luxury roots. Some people are hopeful that the brand can find a balance between Gvasalia's streetwear-inspired designs and the classic elegance that defined the brand in its earlier years. However, the fashion world has changed. Balenciaga isn't the only brand that's experimented with shock value, and some critics wonder if this approach is sustainable in the long run. The larger message: fashion and responsibility. What does the story of Balenciaga tell us about the world of fashion? At its core, fashion is an art form, a way to express ideas, challenge conventions, and inspire change. But in today's world, fashion brands are also businesses, and with business comes responsibility. Balenciaga's fall from grace is a reminder that while creativity and pushing boundaries are important, so is being mindful of the impact your actions can have. In the race to stand out, some designers may lose sight of their responsibility to their audience. Shock value can be effective in getting attention, but it's a double-edged sword. If a brand pushes too far, it can alienate its customers and damage its reputation beyond repair. Balenciaga's story is proof that in the world of luxury fashion, there's a fine line between creativity and irresponsibility. Conclusion: can Balenciaga rise again? Balenciaga's journey is a powerful lesson in the importance of staying true to your roots, even as you innovate and experiment. The brand that once embodied sophistication and elegance is now a symbol of how quickly a fashion icon can lose its way. As Balenciaga moves forward, the big question remains: can it recover from the mistakes of the past? Can it return to its roots of timeless beauty? Or is it destined to remain a symbol of scandal and controversy? Balenciaga's future may not be certain, but its story will undoubtedly be one of the most talked about in the history of fashion. Whether it can rise again or fade into obscurity is yet to be seen. But one thing is clear: fashion, like life, is a delicate balance. And sometimes, the pursuit of the next big thing can come at a cost.